Mr. Amberg, cross-examination.
Thank you, Your Honor. Officer Bowen, it's good to see you as always.
How you doing, sir?
Well, we're rocking and rolling here. I just have a couple of questions for you about what you just testified to. Before anything else, I think that you indicated you've done this for quite a long time, at least 14 years in Waterford, before that, a couple of years in Lapeer, right?
Yes, sir.
And you've been primarily a road officer, road patrolman?
Yes, sir.
And one thing that involves is the investigation of operating while intoxicated cases.
Yes, sir.
And I think you testified you've done it on at least 100 different occasions.
Yes.
And you've done training.
Yes, sir.
You did the standardized field sobrieties training, right?
Yes, sir.
And those are basically, when I say standardized field sobriety tests, those are the one where you stand on one leg for 30 seconds, you do the pen in the eyes, the horizontal gaze nystagmus, and then you have the one where you walk 9 steps forward and you walk 9 steps back, right?
Yes.
And those, they call them the standardized field sobriety tests because they're all supposed to be done in order, right?
Not necessarily.
But they're all supposed to be done,
Not
correct?
necessarily.
If you're doing well, then why learn them if you're not going to do them on the road?
Those are just some tests that give you some additional options that you can do on the road if you choose.
Well,
I've done plenty of drunk driving arrests before that I took that class.
so you never knew what the standardized field sobriety tests were up until 2 or 3 years ago?
No, I just never taken that course up until 2 or 3 years ago. I took a prior course with Dr. Bry.
Okay. And Dr. Bride, of course, he's an expert in this stuff, and he teaches that, right? He teaches the standardized field sobriety tests.
What I learned was using the fingers, the dexterity tests, the counting backwards. I learned the heel to toe.
And so what they do is in that class from 2 or 3 years ago that you did, they separate what that is from the standardized tests, right? They did that at that class, right? You have standardized tests and you have what they call non-standardized tests, right?
The tests they taught were tests that were, they taught us the few tests that they figured that after going through the training, they figured those few tests they thought were the best tests that they
Right, the best tests. There's 3 tests: the horizontal gaze nystagmus test, the one-leg stand test, and the heel-to-toe walk.
Objection. It's not a question.
That's a leading question. I'm asking, those are the 3 tests, but I can do it in a leading fashion.
You may proceed.
Thank you. Those are I'll say that again. The horizontal gaze nystagmus test, the one-leg stand test, and the heel-to-toe test. Those are the 3 tests that you're talking about, right?
Yes.
Okay. The best tests.
Oh, yes.
Yes. Okay. Now, let's move on to your observations. And no, I know that you've been doing this a long time, and one of the reasons why I brought that up is that you're taught as an officer to look for possible criminal activity, right? I mean, it goes with the job.
Yes.
And it's to stop crime from happening. And one of the things that you do is you come up to a scene like this. It's nighttime on a Friday. You've got somebody who's fallen off a motorcycle. You talk to the driver. I think you testified the driver said that he had drank 3 beers. Obviously, some red flags go up, right?
Yes.
And those red flags are we have a possible drunk driver, right?
Yes.
Now, because you handle so many cases, you've been taught to basically write down in a police report the observations that you make from that evening, right?
Yeah.
And the reason why is so, months down the road, you can come into court and tell us exactly every factor that you saw present for somebody that was possibly intoxicated, right?
Yes.
Okay. And I know you listed some of them. I think that you listed the odor of intoxicants as one, right?
Yes.
I would imagine those bloodshot eyes is one, right?
I did not write down bloodshot eyes.
Well, I'm just asking in general. In general, observations that you would make to determine that, well, let me backtrack. You said in your direct exam that people exhibit usually the similar types of signs, right? You said that in your direct exam.
Usually, yes.
Okay. Those signs include the odor of intoxicants,
Yes.
slurred speech,
Sometimes.
sometimes, bloodshot eyes.
Sometimes.
Well, you said they exhibit similar signs, so this is just once in a while they do that? Or is this pretty much all the time?
Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. I don't remember if he had bloodshot eyes or not tonight.
Officer, and I'm not trying to do anything but determine what those things are that you see, that you call, the things that you see that people usually exhibit.
Usually, yes. It's
Okay.
usually you can smell it, you can sometimes usually see it in their eyes.
Yeah.
And on the speech, it depends on how intoxicated they are.
Okay. Sometimes they're like swaying around, right?
The more intoxicated, the more obvious the signs are.
Well, if you look at it the other way, if they're not swaying around, that might mean they're not intoxicated, right?
It might be, yes.
If they're not slurring, maybe they're just not intoxicated, right?
Yes,
Maybe when they don't have bloodshot eyes, maybe it's just because they're not intoxicated, right?
maybe, yes.
Okay. So you observe the odor of intoxicants.
Yes.
If you saw any other sign besides the odor of intoxicants in my client's statement that he drank 3 beers, you would have wrote that in your report, right?
Yes.
But you didn't write anything else in your report, right?
Right.
That was it.
Yes.
Okay. So, based on that, I mean, anytime you hear somebody say, hey, I drank 3 beers and you can smell, alcohol, yeah, you're going to call the alcohol enforcement officer up, right? That's just what you're going to do, right?
If he wasn't available, yes, I would have done that.
And so that would happen every time you're presented with this case.
Not
Right.
every time. I said if there's an alcohol person working, yes. If not, I would have done the investigation.
Correct. Either way, when you hear somebody admit to drinking and they got a smell of alcohol, then that's going to be enough to at least investigate further, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, just because somebody smells like alcohol doesn't mean they're intoxicated, right?
Right.
I mean, you can go to the bar, you can go to a bar and have a beer or two and drive home, and as long as you're not intoxicated or over the legal limit, that's okay.
As long as you're not. Can you rephrase that
Sure.
for me?
I'll repeat it. You can go to the bar and have a couple of beers. Well, right? You can do that.
Yes.
And then when you leave the bar, you can drive home, right?
As long as you're not over the legal limit.
Correct. So the law, as we all understand it, isn't that if you take 1 sip of alcohol and drive is illegal. It's if you're over the legal limit, right?
Objection, he's asking him to make a conclusion.
Not necessarily.
Hang on, officer. The objection is,
He's asking the witness to make a legal conclusion.
I'll let you rephrase the question, Mr. Amberg.
Thank you, Your Honor. I guess at the bottom line is this, officer. It's not illegal to drink and drive as long as it's within your limits.
As long as it doesn't make you impaired to drive.
Correct. And so just because somebody has told you they've drank some beers, that does not mean that they are necessarily impaired or intoxicated.
Like I said, as long as they're not over the legal limit.
Correct. And just because somebody smells like alcohol doesn't necessarily mean they've broken the law.
That's true.
Okay? Now, you never saw my client drive, right?
No, I did not.
You didn't get any calls into the station earlier in the evening about a guy with a lady on the back of his bike driving like a maniac down M59?
Not that I can recall.
Nobody doing any wheelies or anything like that?
Not that I recall.
High-speed driving at like 100 miles an hour going past the Myers at warp speed? You didn't get any of those calls, right?
Not that I recall, sir.
I would imagine that does happen sometimes, right?
Yes, we do get
I
called like
think we've all probably seen that a few times here. But you didn't get any calls like that night pertaining to my client.
Not that I recall.
So you never actually saw him drive the bike.
No, I did not.
When you got there, he was already there,
Yes.
next to his girlfriend, right?
Yes.
Okay. And you said he was calm when you spoke to him, right?
As calm as he could be, regarding the situation. Yeah.
Well, he did appear a little nervous, right?
Yeah,
And a little shaken up, right?
that's what I mean, as calm as he could be for the situation.
Sure. I mean, this wasn't like a guy who was just mellow hanging out here. Obviously, there was some, I don't know how you call it, nervousness or tension or however you get when you've just been through a traumatic situation, right?
Yeah, that's what I said, as calm as he could be for the situation, he was doing well.
Okay. And he was holding it together the best he could.
It appeared, yes.
And he was concerned about his girlfriend, right?
Yes.
And he, until this investigation actually sort of took the next step, he was sitting there right next to her, right?
Yes.
Trying to help her from what it looked like, right?
Yeah, he was concerned about her, yes.
Okay. Now, I know you did the accident UD10 report. He didn't fall off the bike, did he?
No, nobody ever said he fell off.
Okay. And the bike never was actually in a crash, right?
No, never made any contact with any other vehicle.
Okay. And so it wasn't really an accident. It was just somebody fell off the back of the bike.
Yes.
Okay. So, I mean, do you call that an accident still, or is it something else?
I wrote up a UD10 because there was injuries.
Okay. And that's why you would do that? Not just because it's because there's injuries, not because there's necessarily an accident? It's just somebody got hurt on a road.
Yes.
He said he became more agitated at the end of this. I assume that was after Officer Post had done his investigation when my client found out that he was not going to the hospital.
Yeah, he was agitated, yes.
Right? Because he wanted to be with his girlfriend.
Yes.
Because he was really concerned about what was going on with her.
He seemed concerned.
Okay. Fair enough. All right, officer, thank you for your time. No further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Amberg. Any